All right, happy Monday, President's Day, and hopefully everyone is doing great. They had a great All-Star weekend, rainy down here in Southwest Florida, and we had an All-Star game that was interesting. I would say the last time I watched an All-Star game was 2015. That was probably it. That's my opinion on the All-Star game. And now the discussions are, how do we fix it? And I think we're basically at either one or two ways here, or three ways. And this is not why we're doing a video. We're going to do a video about the article that we have up on ESPN.com about the buyout and the waiver market here. I think there's three different ways you can look at it. Either, as Brian Windhorst said on Get Up, you pay these guys more money, but I mean, how much is enough? Right? I mean, do we just continually have to throw money at players? We're already doing it with the in-season tournament here. The second thing is, why don't we change it to USA versus the world? I tweeted about it. My friend Tim Bontemps called me insane. I didn't get offended by it. He didn't say it publicly. He said it privately. Maybe we spice it up there. USA versus the world. We'll do it in San Francisco in 2025. There's enough international players to field a competitive, if not better, team than Team USA. Or the third thing is, maybe we just need to accept the reality of this is what it is. This is what the All-Star game is. This is what it will continually be. It's an exhibition. Guys have already played 55 games. They don't want to play another game during a break where they basically have been shut down for 3 or 4 days. So there's a little bit of a tangent on the on All-Star weekend here. We had Jacque Vaughn fired in Brooklyn. Not surprising. Anytime you get your doors blown off by 50 points in Boston, I think they were down by 58. It was one of the most non-competitive basketball games that I've seen. That has writing all over the wall. And then you have Mikal Bridges go on the Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart podcast. I don't know if that was probably before that game. And basically says, about the atmosphere in Barclays in that Knicks game. Bridges has been outspoken. And as I said, when we did our trade guide videos and we wrote about it, like, I would be concerned if I was Brooklyn as far as losing Mikal Bridges here, because he's got 2 years left on his contract. The unlikelihood that he's going to extend based on where the rules are right now. So now you've gone from, you were 12-9 at one point, you're 9-24 since the infamous Milwaukee game, where you basically shut everyone down. You're 6-18, and you're fighting to just get into be the 10 seed in the play-in to basically have to win 2 games and then get slaughtered by Boston in round 1, and you don't control your first round pick. Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash, Jacque Vaughn, certainly everything in between. Now you're going on your 4th coach in 8 years here. Stability. That's the key to everything, is stability here, and I think certainly with Brooklyn that has been a struggle. Since Kenny was let go, since Steve was hired, since the big 3, and now you're basically trying to kind of salvage what you have. So the video that we are actually going to do, not the All-Star and not the Jacque Vaughn firing here, and we'll see who Brooklyn hires under interim. Ironically, Nate McMillan a year ago, the same fate. Joe Prunty takes over. We need Joe Prunty to come in and take over Brooklyn for a couple games, and then Quinn Snyder gets hired, and they get into the playoffs last year. So we have a video up on We have an article up on ESPN.com. Kevin Pelton and I wrote about it. Everyone talks about the buyout market. I would say use those words loosely. It's really not the buyout market. It's the post-waiver trade deadline market here. The NBA put in new rules with this new collective bargaining agreement. If a player is waived, okay, it doesn't have to be bought out of his contract. If a player is waived during the regular season, now it's important, the regular season, he is not allowed to sign with a team who is in the first or second apron if his pre-existing salary was $12.4 million or more. So, for example, Spencer Dinwiddie had an $18.8 million contract. He was not allowed to sign with Denver, Phoenix, Milwaukee, Miami, Phoenix, Golden State, Clippers. There's 7 teams total here. He was not. Kyle Lowry was waived. Actually, Lowry was bought out in Charlotte. He eventually goes to sign with Philadelphia because they are below the first and second apron here. The league put these rules in because basically what happened was in 2021, everybody went crazy. The world, and I wrote about it, the world went crazy. NBA world, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond gets bought out of their contract. The rich get richer. Aldridge and Griffin go to Brooklyn. Drummond goes to the Lakers. How could that happen? 2 teams with top 5 payroll. Why are we doing this? And what happened was Aldridge retires. Griffin averages 10 points, his lowest in his career, and Andre Drummond gets benched in the playoffs or gets his role reduced in the playoffs here. So we have to kind of pump the brakes in as far as the rich getting richer here. One thing that's interesting is that there have been 3 players that have been waived / bought out of their contract this year. When you look at DeLon Wright going from Washington to Miami, an apron team. You look at Thaddeus Young getting waived by Brooklyn and going to Phoenix, an apron team. And then you look at Danilo Gallinari in Detroit getting waived and signs with Milwaukee, an apron team. So if the league really wanted to put some teeth into these rich getting richer, you should have probably just eliminated the salary requirement and said if a player earns more than the veteran minimum, then he is not allowed to sign with an apron team. But they didn't, and teams continually add talent that are high-spending teams. Of course, some of these players like Lowry and Dinwiddie were not allowed to sign with apron teams here. So the league puts that in. Players need to be waived by 11:59 p.m. on March 1st. To become playoff eligible, okay? You do not have to sign with a team by March 1st, but you have to be waived by that to become playoff eligible. That's the same with two-way players, okay? So we're going to see a little bit of a little bit of a rotating door here in the next 8 or 9 days before we get to March 1st. There are teams with roster spots. Kevin Pelton and I wrote about as far as who has the roster spots. Go on ESPN.com and take a look. Who could become some of those players to keep an eye on? I put 2 for different reasons. Marcus Morris has not been waived in San Antonio. I would keep an eye on him. He is one of these apron players where he is not allowed to go sign in Phoenix or with the Clippers. Or actually, he was traded from the Clippers. He can't sign with the Heat, for example, here because he is an apron. I would keep an eye on Minnesota for him. That probably makes the most sense. And then the other player, and we really haven't heard much about him, is Gary Trent Jr. in Toronto. We didn't hear much during the trade deadline. I don't see him getting bought out. He's only 25 years old. He's playing there's a role for him in Toronto here. What happens with buyouts, okay? And what do we talk about is buyouts is that a player elects to reduce their compensation owed, and then you go sign with another team, and you basically make that money up. Basically, you're kind of auditioning on a playoff team. Now, here's what happens. You lose bird rights, you go through the waiver wire, and you lose the ability when you get into the offseason to work out a sign-in trade. So for Gary Trent, it makes 0 sense to go through the buyout market here, and it makes 0 sense for Toronto because you could use him maybe either to resign or you can use him to use in a sign-in trade here. You lose a lot of leverage as far as how it gets diminished here. The other thing, too, is that I went back and looked at 22 players were bought out of their contract since 2020-21. Their next contract, not the contract they signed after they were bought out, but their next contract when they entered the free agency period. There's been only one. It was Kyle Lowry, who signed for a contract more than $9 million. I think Kyle was like 9 and change or maybe right around 8. So there's been only one. So basically you go through the waiver buyout, the buyout market. Your options are limited when you get into free agency here. You're basically looking at a lot of players who are minimum players. John Wall signed for the tax mid-level at 6.5, I think, with the Clips. He was a buyout player here. We get all excited about this post-trade deadline buyout period. I would say pump the brakes here. Rarely do we see players make an impact. It's usually players who are that 8th, 9th, and 10th man. KP wrote about DeLon Wright is a better fit in Miami than Kyle Lowry maybe in Philadelphia here. We get caught up on these aging former All-Stars who are let go out of their contracts and now go out and make an impact. They're basically insurance policy here. So we have that up on ESPN.com. Go take a look at it. Kind of nuts and bolts. It's a back and forth. I love doing those articles with Kevin and certainly with Bontemps also. The buyout market, I think you have to be cautious as far as what is going to be out there. It makes no sense for Detroit to buy out Evan Fournier, Shake Milton, Troy Brown, guys like that. Maybe Jetty Osman in San Antonio. That might be the key guy that we're going to keep an eye on. And also, you have a lot of teams still in the mix for the play-in tournament here. Patty Mills maybe in Atlanta makes sense because there's no role for him. But what is he on a playoff team? Your 11th or your 12th man here. So go on ESPN.com. Take a look at it. Certainly a lot of news on a Monday with All-Star Weekend. Another thing regarding All-Star Weekend. Why don't we change up the format on Saturday and put the three-point contest at the end, or do Steph and Sabrina at the end, or next year with Kate and Clark or somebody like that? The slam dunk contest is not the marquee event anymore. I hate to say it, but it isn't. Put that somewhere in the middle. End it with the three-point contest here. So go on ESPN.com. A happy Monday. Read all about the waiver market, buyout market, whatever you want to call it. March 1st. Also, teams. What we're seeing now also is teams converting two-way players. Last day to sign a player to a two-way is March 3rd. We're seeing a lot of teams convert two-ways, and then they go out and sign a two-way to fill that spot here. So keep an eye on that. We've seen it in Memphis. We've seen it with Cleveland. A bunch of other spots. Keep an eye on Brooklyn potentially here. But that is it. Hopefully everyone has a great Monday. We will talk soon, and enjoy the week.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. The CDA over here,